I'm here for the PlayStation 2. The best entertainment system to hit the world. It's gonna be great.
The PlayStation 2 stands as the most successful video game console of all time, having sold 160 million units worldwide and fundamentally reshaping the entertainment landscape. This remarkable machine didn't just play games. It served as a DVD player, backward-compatible gaming system, and technological powerhouse that would dominate the market for over a decade. Released during one of the most competitive periods in gaming history, facing off against Nintendo's GameCube, Sega's Dreamcast, and Microsoft's Xbox in what would become known as the sixth-generation console war.
There are waiting lists and tickets just to stand in line and get a chance to buy PlayStation 2.
PlayStation 2 will be the biggest thing to come along since TV was invented. The buzz on this product is that strong.
PlayStation 2.
PlayStation 2. Newest, fastest video game system ever.
The story of the PlayStation 2 begins with Sony's phenomenal success in the mid-90s. Released in 1994, the original PlayStation proved to be a worldwide triumph, eventually becoming the first computer entertainment platform to ship over 100 million units. This success signaled Sony's rise to power in the video game industry, dethroning established rivals, Sega and Nintendo, in the global market. However, Sony executives recognized that sustaining this momentum would be extraordinarily challenging. As Chris Deering, who was running Sony Computer Entertainment Europe at the time, remembered it, a lot of folks at Sony were pretty nervous about trying to make a console that could match or top the success of the one before it. They were dead set on pulling off back-to-back hits, something neither Nintendo nor Sega had pulled off. Deering said chasing that goal was kind of like trying to win gold medals at 2 Olympics in a row. Ken Kutaragi, known as the father of the PlayStation, began working on a second console around the time of the original PlayStation's launch in late 1994. Though Sony kept development details secret, by early 1997, the press was reporting that a new PlayStation was being developed with backward compatibility, a built-in DVD player, and internet connectivity. Sony continued to officially deny that a successor was being developed, maintaining an air of mystery around their next-generation plans. The competitive landscape intensified when Sega, desperate after losing market share and bleeding money, dropped the Dreamcast in 1998 as kind of a last-ditch move to stay in the game. They went big with marketing, and the Dreamcast actually flew off the shelves. Over 500,000 units sold in just 2 weeks. Proving the console market was still seriously competitive. Sony officially revealed the first details of the PlayStation 2 on March 2, 1999, confirming in a press release that its processor would ensure full backward compatibility with original PlayStation software, significantly boosted performance, a 4-fold increase in data transfer rates, and a 20 times faster serial interface. Kutaragi affirmed that the new console would allow video games to convey unprecedented emotions. Sony estimated the PlayStation 2 could render between 7.5 million and 16 million polygons per second, compared to contemporary independent estimates ranging from 3 million to 20 million, and Sega's estimates of 3 million to 6 million for the rival Dreamcast. The PlayStation 2 was officially unveiled at the Tokyo Game Show on September 20, 1999, in the presence of around 1,500 journalists. A press release issued the same day described the hardware as featuring the world's fastest graphics rendering processor, capable of producing movie-quality 3D graphics in real time. The console's design reflected Sony's commitment to both form and function. Teiyu Goto, reflecting on the PlayStation 2's aesthetics, explained, "PlayStation 2's real-time graphics have no limitations. That's why I chose the color black, as it represents the infinity of the universe. The blue represents the intelligence and life spouting up. At the heart of the PlayStation 2 lay revolutionary technology. The main central processing unit was the 64-bit R5900-based Emotion engine, custom designed by Sony and Toshiba. This processor consisted of 8 separate units, each performing specific tasks integrated onto the same die. These units included a central CPU core, 2 vector processing units, a 10-channel DMA unit, a memory controller, and an image processing unit. The Emotion Engine CPU operated at a clock rate of 294 MHz and delivered 6,000 MIPS, with a floating point performance of 6.2 gigaflops. The system featured 32 megabytes of RDRAM and a custom-designed GPU, called the graphics synthesizer, with a fill rate of 2.4 gigapixels per second, capable of rendering up to 75 million polygons per second. Adding a DVD player to the PlayStation 2 turned out to be a total game-changer. When it launched at $299, the PS2 was actually priced about the same as a lot of standalone DVD players back then. For example, popular models like the Sony DVP-S 330 went for around $300 in 2000. That made the PS2 a pretty sweet deal. You were getting a cutting-edge game console and a DVD player all in one box. Ray Maguire, who was running SCE UK at the time, said they mentioned the DVD feature in ads, but the spotlight was still mostly on the games. In places like Southern Europe, though, where gaming wasn't as big yet, they leaned harder into promoting the PS2 as a DVD player, and that move really paid off in countries like Spain, where it helped the console take off. The DualShock 2 controller retained most of the same functionality as its predecessor, while introducing several key enhancements. The most significant upgrade was the inclusion of pressure-sensitive inputs across all primary controls. Unlike the original DualShock controller, which featured only digital input for the directional pad and face buttons, the DualShock 2 allowed for 255 levels of pressure sensitivity. As the PlayStation 2 approached its launch, Sony's marketing team made a deliberate strategic shift in their target demographic. Jack Tretton, who was heading up Sony Computer Entertainment US, explained their approach. "We use the age of 17 as kind of the target of the bullseye, with the theory that everybody under 17 aspires to be 17 because of an older sibling, or you're going to have your driver's license. If you're older, you hearken back on your teenage years." This represented a more focused approach compared to the original PlayStation's broader demographic targeting. The visual language of PlayStation 2 marketing drew heavily from contemporary underground culture and cinema. Video and print advertisements resembled films like Trainspotting, The Matrix, and Requiem for a Dream. This aesthetic alignment positioned the PlayStation 2 not just as a gaming device, but as a cultural artifact that belonged in the same space as cutting-edge cinema and underground art movements. Sony enlisted renowned filmmaker David Lynch to direct PlayStation 2 promotional content, including the surreal The Third Place trailer. Lynch created a bizarre advertisement featuring an invincible deer totaling a vehicle when an absent-minded driver hits the animal with the tagline, "Different place, different rules." The marketing strategy centered on making mundane happenings of typical daily life collide with the most obscure and surreal abstractions. If Salvador Dali had been available to create campaign marketing material for PS2, the aesthetic might have resembled Sony's actual output. This approach utilized punk, industrial, and dystopian visual arrangements borrowed from underground club movements and films like Fight Club and Blade, capturing a sense of fear and unease that targeted older audiences. The Japanese launch on March 4, 2000, at a price of 39,800 yen, created scenes of hysteria that contrasted sharply with the relatively subdued launch of the original PlayStation in 1994. More than 10,000 people were standing in line across Tokyo on launch day, some having waited 4 days earlier. Demand was exceptionally high, with all 1 million launch units selling out over the first weekend. A black market quickly emerged in Akihabara, with most consoles selling for over $2,000 each on eBay. Despite very strong hardware sales, the Japanese launch faced initial challenges, as software sales were initially low, with reports suggesting many consumers purchased the console primarily for its DVD playback capabilities. Former Worldwide Studios president Shuhei Yoshida acknowledged that Sony had been awfully unprepared for the transition from the original PlayStation, noting the company's limited experience in managing generational console launches. Due to a lack of launch software, much of the early consumer interest centered on the console's ability to play DVDs. According to Yoshida, in Japan, the best-selling title during the launch period was not a game, but a DVD of The Matrix. He remarked that while standalone DVD players were still expensive at the time, the PlayStation 2 offered comparable functionality at a significantly lower price point. The PlayStation 2 launched with 11 titles, including Ridge Racer 5, Tekken Tag Tournament, and Street Fighter X3. By March 31, 2000, the PlayStation 2 had sold its entire inventory of 1.4 million units in Japan. The United States launch on October 26, 2000, received a mixed reception despite generating massive consumer interest. Sony reduced their initial shipment from 1 million units to approximately 500,000 due to supply constraints and manufacturing issues with a new, smaller version of the graphics synthesizer chip, leading to widespread shortages. This sparked rumors of intentional stock manipulation to drive hype, especially as small supplies remained available in Japan. Retailers who had taken pre-orders based on the higher estimates were forced to cancel many reservations. Despite the frustration, the scarcity created a media frenzy, with widespread coverage of long queues and eager buyers camping outside stores. Technology analyst Michael Gartenberg remarked that you could not get a PlayStation 2 in the US in that first holiday season, and felt that its demand could have harmed Sony's image when consumers were looking to purchase, but ultimately could not. However, the launch was supported by a broader selection of games compared to Japan. Electronic Arts sold 40,000 copies of Madden NFL 2001 prior to the console's release, and Rockstar Games saw early success with Midnight Club Street Racing and Smuggler's Run. Despite some criticism of the launch itself, Rockstar's Sam Houser remarked that it marked the beginning of a new era for the video game industry. American sales of the console generated $250 million on the first day, beating the $97 million made on the first day of the Dreamcast. Even with 100,000 units shipping weekly, PS2s were still nearly impossible to find in the US until March 2001, thanks to ongoing production delays. The PlayStation 2's launch in the UK and Europe was rocky. The BBC's Watchdog criticized its £299 price as a rip-off Britain example, and some media speculated Sony limited supply to boost hype, especially since only 80,000 pre-orders were allocated to Europe despite it being PlayStation's biggest market. Many new consoles reportedly failed on Christmas Day, adding to frustration. Stock shortages led to quiet launch nights without the big crowds seen elsewhere, and early resellers asked up to $1,500, though most sales settled around $500. After launch, critics highlighted the lack of anti-aliasing, and developers complained about how tricky the system was to program. Even with its rocky launch, the PlayStation 2 quickly turned things around and became a massive hit, both financially and in the market. By the end of 2000, it was already putting serious pressure on Sega, which had sold about 6.5 million Dreamcasts over nearly 2 years. Meanwhile, Sony had moved 10 million PS2s in just 15 months, and sales were still climbing. With the PS2 taking over and new competition from Nintendo and Microsoft looming, Sega's chairman Isao Okawa decided it was time to step away from making consoles. The Dreamcast was officially discontinued on March 31, 2001, the same day Sony announced it had sold over 10.6 million PlayStation 2s worldwide. Sony ran into a fresh challenge when Microsoft jumped into the game with the Xbox launch in November 2001. Inside Sony, the execs knew this was a big deal. Microsoft had way deeper pockets. The Japanese side of the team didn't seem too worried, but over in Europe, Chris Deering at SCEE was bracing for a tough fight and took a careful approach. Even though Microsoft hired some top talent, their focus on the US market meant the Xbox had a hard time catching on outside North America. Meanwhile, Sony kept things rolling by doubling down on relationships with third-party publishers. offering sweet perks like lower platform fees, marketing help, and cutting-edge dev kits. That strategy landed them key exclusive games and helped them stay ahead of the pack. By 2001, Sony had established a commanding lead in the gaming market, bolstered by the breakthrough success of Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto 3 and Konami's Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. Grand Theft Auto 3's open-world design captured the attention of a broad audience and marked a turning point in the PlayStation 2's momentum. The console's growing library reflected the same wide-ranging appeal that had defined the original PlayStation, offering something for every type of consumer. Sony also positioned itself at the forefront of innovation, with early trade show demonstrations showcasing the PlayStation 2's USB capabilities and developers experimenting with motion controls long before they became industry standards. The most significant marketing campaign of the PlayStation 2 era was the Fun Anyone series. Launched in 2003 to expand the console's appeal beyond its core demographic. The centerpiece of this campaign was the Mountain advertisement, a 60-second television and cinema spot that cost $5 million for production and advertising space across all markets. Directed by Frank Budgeon and produced by Gorgeous Enterprises, the commercial depicted a Brazilian crowd congregating to form a mountain of human bodies, all competing to reach the top of the pile. Mountain premiered in 30 countries on November 13, 2003, and became a critical and commercial phenomenon. The advertisement was nominated for over 40 awards from professional organizations in the advertising and television industries, including the Film Grand Prix at the Cannes Lions International Advertising Festival, considered the most prestigious award in the advertising community. Jury President Piyush Pandey commented, "It was the simplicity of the idea and the magnitude of execution that helped Mountain stand out." In September 2004, Sony revealed a newer, slimmer model of the PlayStation 2 dubbed the Slimline. This new upgraded version featured a built-in Ethernet port, making it easier for players to get online without extra accessories, but an apparent manufacturing issue and underestimated demand caused initial production slowdowns of the new unit. On top of that, there was a weird gap where stores ran out of the old PS2s before the Slimline started shipping, causing some frustrating shortages right when demand was hottest. Still, once production caught up, the Slimline ended up giving the PS2 a major second wind, helping it stay the top dog in the console market for a few more years. The PlayStation 2's peripheral ecosystem was remarkably diverse, catering to various gaming experiences. The network adapter represented a crucial advancement in console connectivity. The original models required purchasing a separate network adapter to play online. This compact hardware component, smaller than a standard paperback book, installed easily into the expansion bay at the rear of the console. The iToy camera peripheral introduced innovative motion-controlled gaming, years before such technology became mainstream. Originally manufactured by Logitech, later models were produced by Namtai. This little digital camera, basically a fancy webcam, let players control games using their body movements, which was mind-blowing at the time. It was mostly used for games built just for it, like iToy Play, where you'd smack virtual objects on screen, iToy Groove, which turned your living room into a dance floor, and iToy Anti-Grav, a hoverboard game that let you steer by leaning side to side. On top of the games, you could also snap photos and record videos with it, making it a pretty fun all-around gadget. Musical gaming accessories really took off on the PlayStation 2, kicking off entire genres that would rule the industry for years. Dance pads for Dance Dance Revolution games let players step in time with the action on screen, basically turning living rooms into dance floors. Konami's microphones made Karaoke Revolution a blast for sing-alongs, while Sony's SingStar series had its own exclusive wireless mics, so you could belt out tunes without worrying about tripping over chords. Then there were the iconic guitar controllers, first with Konami's Guitar Freak series and later the massively popular Guitar Hero games, that let you live out Rockstar fantasies. Drum kits came into play too with Rock Band, bringing full band experiences to the couch. And if you wanted something a bit different, the Taiko Drum Master controller gave players a chance to bang on a Japanese taiko drum for an authentic rhythm game. The Buzz Buzzers were Sony's fun dive into quiz gaming, with special controllers that had a big red button for buzzing in and 4 colored buttons for picking your answers. They came in both wired and wireless versions, usually bundled right in with Buzz games, so you could get started right out of the box. A set of 4 buzzers worked as one USB device, and the wireless ones connected through a USB dongle, letting you hook up to 4 wireless buzzers at once. The PlayStation 2's game library ultimately comprised 10,987 titles, with cumulative software shipment reaching 1.5 billion units by discontinuation. Several prolific series debuted on the platform, including God of War, Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, The Precursor Legacy, Devil May Cry, and Kingdom Hearts. Ultimately, the best-selling PlayStation 2 game was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which sold 17.3 million units. Special edition consoles and accessories quickly turned into hot collectibles, with the system released in a wide range of colors, from bright and bold shades to sleek metallics and soft pastels. Some exclusive color variants were even launched just for the Japanese market, making certain editions especially rare and desirable for collectors. The Sega Saturn PS2 controller, officially licensed by both Sony and Sega, was released in black exclusively in Japan in 2005, with a purple version produced for the launch of Vampire Darkstalkers collection. Sony's Linux for PlayStation 2 kit turned the console into a legit computer, complete with a keyboard, mouse, Ethernet adapter, and hard drive. In Europe and Australia, consoles even came with a free basic interpreter on the demo disc, letting players dabble in writing their own simple programs. On top of that, alternative operating systems like NetBSD and Black Rhino Linux were also supported, showing just how surprisingly flexible and versatile the PS2 really was. The console remained the best-selling and most-played system by 2008, even surpassing the PlayStation 3. By March 31st, 2012, 12 years after its launch, over 155 million units were sold worldwide. Production was officially discontinued on January 4, 2013, after almost 13 years of production, marking one of the longest lifespans of any video game console. The PlayStation 2's final years saw continued software releases well beyond typical console lifespans. New games continued production until the end of 2013, including Final Fantasy XI, Seekers of Adulan in Japan, FIFA 14, Legacy Edition in North America and South America, and Pro Evolution Soccer 2014 in the United Kingdom. Repair services in Japan ended on September 7, 2018 due to part shortages. In February 2024, Jim Ryan, CEO of Sony, confirmed on the official PlayStation podcast that the PlayStation 2 had sold 160.63 million units worldwide, cementing its legacy as the most successful home video game console in history. Thanks for joining in on the trip through the history of this legendary console. If there is any interesting gaming phenomena you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss any videos like this one. See you next time!